The storytellers and the artists were always fascinated by the mythologies of ancient civilizations, epic stories about heroes and gods, stories that had a meaning behind their words and had a certain something that made them be remembered over generations. Greek mythology is one of the three mythologies that is constantly visited when it comes to cinema and other adaptations, and to be quite frank, many stories were adapted and many stories are yet to be retold in different ways. But each adaptation of an old story brings something new to the surface, a new perspective, and makes the story be understood more and more by the viewers, new ones and already familiar with the myths, and makes the original legend be known by new generations in interesting ways. The most popular stories from the Greek myths are Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. The story of the old Trojan War and its outcomes is a tale that was revisited over and over again. There is something that attracts people towards this myth in ways that cannot be explained. Heroes like Ajax, Achilles, and Odysseus are still imposing to this day a feeling of justice and honor that was copied and presented in many stories that were created throughout history. This brings me back to the original motive of this video, the 2024 film The Return, a film directed by Uberto Pasolini, starring Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche, that tells the story of the last part of Homer's Odyssey. Odysseus, king of Ithaca, comes back home after years of war and challenges and takes back his throne, saving his family and his kingdom from the ones who want his power. Being interested in the old myths, I instantly wanted to see this movie. I wanted to see how it is gonna represent the original story. I was curious to see if the film might be made in a modern style or might keep some things that are classic and elegant ideas from the original poem. After seeing the film a couple of times in the last year, I wanted to put my notes on the paper and I realized this film has some interesting details in its creation. If you might know the original poem, you know Homer talked about gods and mythical creatures that appeared in Odysseus' journey. From what can be seen from the first moments of the film, and later it's kinda confirmed throughout the film, is that Pasolini left anything connected to the myths and gods aside, and focused on the power and the attributes of man. When I saw this, it reminded me about the film Troy, which tried the same thing, to focus more on the mortal part of the poem, making everything more grounded. The Return gives the exact same feeling. It is simpler and more focused on the quest of Odysseus once he reaches Ithaca. And this is where, in my opinion, the film is interesting. The film presents the main character as a broken man who saw quite a lot of things in his life and is forced to become once more the man who he was, a king who has to fight for his kingdom. Pasolini does not give more details. It presents for a couple of seconds a text wall in which he tells the context of the film, and that's it. The rest of the story you have to know it or know about it in order to understand what will develop the rest of the film. And I do not talk about what is gonna happen like you read the poem before watching the film. I talk about the story that is not told, the one before the events of the film. Most of the Greek plays and Greek myths are like an episodic series. Each story or each character is connected with another story or another character, forcing the reader or the one who hears the story of the myth to need to know who that character is and what happened with it until now. Otherwise, the story will still have its lesson to be learned from it, but it will add some questions that can be answered if you pay attention to other stories. That's kinda how mythology works. I like how Pasolini kept this concept for the beginning of the film, but also gives a bit of information for those who might not know the original poem. He tells you the context, and then he shows Odysseus washed ashore and unconscious. And from there, even if you know or do not know the characters or the context, you understand what the story is about. Pasolini shows you a ruined Ithaca that is held hostage for power by anyone who wants to marry Penelope, Odysseus' wife. He shows you the pain and the poverty of the island. He makes you hate the villains and want them defeated as quickly as possible, and he shows you how Odysseus becomes the king who he was before everything that happened. There are elements that add to the background story more details, and for someone who knows mythology, it gets those references immediately. The poor dog, Argos, who was Odysseus' hunting dog, dies instantly after he sees his master came back from war. a scene that is taken directly from the myth and that gives a more powerful importance for Odysseus' characterization. The moment when Euryclea, the old slave, is recognizing Odysseus by the scar he has behind his knee is another reference to his legendary adventure from when he was a child. There are references about the Trojan War that is presented as the war everyone fought in, and I got hints regarding Circe, the legendary being that Odysseus had an encounter and children with, so the entire erasure of the mythological background is not possible. There are other references, like the small hint at the end of the film with Odysseus and Penelope's marital bed that could not be moved because one leg was a whole tree, is made to be shown as this big bed locked in a chamber, stuck on the corner of the room by the roots and the wood of the walls. Or Penelope's shroud that is presented as it is in the myth, as a way for Penelope to buy time and avoid the choosing of a suitor to be her husband. Or the legendary 12-axe arrow challenge, in which only Odysseus succeeds to get the bow ready and shoot the arrow through the axes, making him one of a kind, hinting at his godly ancestry and mythical strength. Okay, at this part, the film hints you that the myths regarding Odysseus' origin might be true, even if the task is seen as an impossible feature by any other man. The Return is one of those movies where you have to know the legends, the source material, in order to get all the references and messages from the film. Still, the references are presented as mortal and normal as possible, which makes the stories just context, just rumors for that modern time. This is not a bad thing, it makes the story more common to the viewer. Just like Troy, The Return presents its mythical background information as feats of strength, or the Trojan War as a very bloody event, not a battle in which gods and humans each had its part. It is as grounded as possible and is made in such a way for every moment to be something so common instead of mythical, yet keeping their importance in Odysseus' development, which I find it true to the source material. This film is a good example to show a mythical legend as a normal, historical yet impactful story. Speaking of how the context is presented, there is something regarding the whole environment of the film that makes the feeling of grounded story to be felt instantly. Just because the story takes place in ancient Greece, it does not mean that everything that you see has to be majestic, made of marble and imposing. Seeing a destroyed Ithaca enhances the feeling of sorrow and chaos the island is set in. You see how the suitors are treating the villagers, are killing whoever they want and think they are entitled in doing so, and the island reflects this abuse and this fear that was installed during the suitors' time there. From a small and certain point of view, you might say the island in itself is a character, and it makes you, as a viewer, feel a pressure that could be given to Penelope, because you might want to end this madness and make those evildoers pay for what they did. There is something of how Pasolini is presenting the characters though, that makes them credible. Penelope is this woman who truly desires to have her man back in her life, desiring a tender moment, but she is a woman of her word and knows what to do best to protect her son and family. The young prince, Telemachus, is presented like a young man who tries to rise and to fulfill a role that even though he was born for it, he is not taken seriously by anyone. He is still presented as the young mama's boy, but his evolution throughout the movie, it defies the man he is gonna be. As for Odysseus himself, I have to give to Pasolini and Ralph Fiennes their flowers. Everything from the way he looks around to the way he walks, every single detail screams and creates a character that has seen enough in his life and experienced true horrors and challenges. I like how Pasolini presented Odysseus truly like someone who has no place at all in current Ithaca, yet he succeeds to hold his ground perfectly. The scenes in which the suitors mock him and make him fight for their fun, or the scene in which he completes the task with the bow, are making Odysseus look powerful and experienced. His shredded appearance tells a lot to the viewer about his combat history, and the look in his eyes when he talks with Penelope about Troy tells the viewer this man went through a lot, saw a lot and just wants peace. This film talks a lot through details without presenting them, just like it is supposed to. This is a thing that I truly love about this film. You have to know and realize stuff as it is presented on the silver screen. It is catchy and it makes you read the image after details that will enhance the story. The film does not need a presentation or an explanation for moments or scenes. It shows them, and if you know the meanings behind what is seen, or you get them, you understand what the director wants to tell perfectly. From a cinematographic point of view, the film is shot in a way that could give this sensation of an indie film, but at the same time of a story told at a pace to enchant the viewer in a mythical journey. When it comes to its aesthetics, the film has a certain balance of colors that makes the world from the film look wild and alive, even though the castle or anything else touched by man is a bit dusty or dirty. It might be a metaphor somewhere or just a choice of Pasolini, but I like this balance between the colors. It makes the man to be more evident in the eyes of the viewer. The way it is shot in a slow rhythm in certain moments and focusing more on the face of the characters to talk more through the eyes and reactions makes the viewer to feel the film more intimate at a personal level, but also guides the viewer through different reactions that are required to evolve the story towards its end. And the soundtrack enhances the feeling of myth and fantasy, but also gives you this sensation of ancient history, like it happened a long time ago. The music guides the viewer through the story in a calm way, but also points out certain important moments, mostly Odysseus' reactions, which enhances the aura of the main character. And looking like it might have only one song as a soundtrack, it makes the motive of the film feel like it truly is an intense old story, a clear message and an event that will instantly impress you and make you understand the character's struggle and redemption. And the fight scenes are extremely interesting. The way Pasolini is presenting those moments is, not gonna say perfect, but are made well enough to feel the satisfaction of justice. Compared with the way Odysseus is presented, the fight scenes are making him look experienced, dangerous and deadly. The film makes the viewer hate the villains a lot. The film builds this hate shot by shot, and when a moment of combat shows up in which Odysseus is acting as a warrior and as a king, even though the scenes are slow-paced, they are realistic and direct. There is no need for a different method to film those moments. They are filmed as they happen instantly. Odysseus' reaction and movement makes those scenes make the viewer feel the justice is served, but also shows the character's experience. He is a deadly warrior who survived hell and knows how to fight and eliminate the threat instantly. It makes me think of that old saying that says, "Beware the old man in a profession where they die young." That is the feeling I had when I saw the scenes, and it felt like I saw a hero who woke up from a sleep like an old guardian, ready to protect and save his family. As for the way the actors portrayed their roles, I was amazed by what they could achieve. You feel Odysseus' past when you see his face. You see Telemachus' impossibility to do something to protect his mother. You see the suitor's greediness and desire to get power. All those moments that are presented in which the characters are realizing something or are talking with each other only through their eyes, I have to say, those moments are the best. You feel the emotion of the moment, their thoughts, and Pasolini knows how to present those moments for the viewer to realize what is happening, so much more than it is presented. When it comes to the choice of actors, the film presents a great cast that truly brought to life the true emotion of the legend. Also, I saw how Pasolini loves to play with dark corners and perspectives of the shot that give a sensation of mystery and suspense to some moments. He knows how to reveal certain details and make the magic of the context feel natural. Every shot is calculated in such a way the viewer has to read the image and find out the context. Sometimes the way he plays with the firelights is so majestic that it definitely makes you lose your imagination into the shot, and the slow-paced rhythm of the story, it truly adds something to the mysticism of the film. Whether or not he presents mythical elements, you feel Pasolini presented his film like a legend told once more, and mysticized in such a way to feel the characters as close as possible with their own problems. He succeeds in presenting those legends in such a way to understand them better in a modern context, but he kept their aura quite well. I remember the last scene in which Odysseus completed the bow task, and he was presented as this incredible, experienced warrior, and until then he was presented as this man who has seen hell and wanted to be left alone and was seen by others as a beggar, as someone they could have a laugh off. This film, this is the story of a war veteran who has PTSD. This is the story of a man who lost his place in the world, lost his faith, and tries to find who he was, what he has done was right or not, and who he is right now. That task is making Odysseus be who he is and makes him unleash all that frustration and anger that he holds with a purpose, to protect his home and his family. In a small parallel, even though it is a long shot, I think Pasolini created a great and modern war movie using an old myth. Maybe he didn't want to do that, or he wanted to. And yes, even if the original legends presented all those details and actions, to put them on the silver screen in a modern view, this either makes the film to have an important impact towards the viewer and can be seen from now on as an instant classic, if it is kept well as it is, or, and probably this is more of a thing that created the chance for the first idea to be true, the myth, even if it is 3000 years old, is still actual and clear today as it was back then, thus making the legend of Odysseus to be timeless, regarding the culture of those who listens or watch the story. There is a difficult task for a film director to adapt an already known story that was told over and over again for centuries. Each time someone brings their own visions and make the film unique, and this is what is remembered by the viewers. The same thing happens with theater adaptations in cinema also. Adapting this concept to this film, The Return will remain in my mind as that grounded film with Odysseus in which Ralph Fiennes played the main character. I loved watching this movie even though it is a slow-paced movie. The film made me sit in the chair and watch the whole thing countless times. It made me want to read the original poem once more and explore the Greek myths, this time with a more mature mind and eye. Being quite natural and having none of the godly connections with the rest of the mythology, I can place this film alongside Troy as my favorites when it comes to movies based on a mythology, each moving for different reasons. Pasolini made this film feel quite simple, but it has a huge meaning behind everything with every single detail. And I love it. Simple and complicated at the same time. This film gives me hope for the future of cinema, and if more film directors will take this approach in creating their stories, something beautiful will happen in the next few years. Yes, I know that these days everyone is extremely excited for Christopher Nolan's Odyssey, because why not, it's Christopher Nolan. But I feel that that movie might be felt as a letdown. I feel that Nolan's movie is made to be just another epic experience made by Nolan in his style, that might be made just like his recent movies, feeling epic and yet too long and losing its theme sometime along the story. And it will not be as clear and personal as Pasolini tried to make this movie. Many are focused and excited for that movie. Even I am curious to see how Nolan might put Homer's poem on the big screen. Yet I still think that compared with The Return, Nolan's Odyssey might be a whole different movie that might miss the whole point and the whole feeling of the story because of the director's style and artistic view. It will not feel modern and ancient at the same time as The Return. But this is a discussion for another time. For the time being, The Return is one of the modern movies that I appreciate fondly. It's one of those artistic movies that works to be seen as much as you can, and even if it might be seen as slow-paced by anyone, you won't get bored. It's an ancient story told through modern lenses, but it still has the same impact on the viewer, as always. It will always have.